I died on a staircase over $9.99. The night I went down a Venmo ping lit my phone. A red plastic basket flipped on the landing. My head met the edge of a tile that smelled like bleach and old grease. Somewhere nearby, a soda machine knocked ice into a cup. The sound was bright, almost cheerful, like a tiny bell. Then I woke in a chalk-smudged classroom at Bayou State University. The ceiling fan ticked the same lazy rhythm. On the board, Welcome Freshman was still wet enough to shine. The smell of dry erase and old textbooks hung low and stale. Laughter rose and fell like warm air. Okay, so. Dinner, someone called from the back. We still going out tonight? Lena Hart stood palms on the desk, eyes wide with evangelical joy. Mudbug Junction, she said. $9.99, all-you-can-eat crawfish. She held the room like she had paid the light bill. It's summer, it's Louisiana, come on. In the first run of this day, I told everyone to come to River and Salt, my parents' place. I begged my dad for a half-off discount, then sent the request split 50 ways. The chat went sour in under a minute. Screenshots, jokes, the word greedy stapled to my name. Later stares, later silence. The next bed in the hospital never got a warm body. After the funeral, my mother sat at the kitchen table with lipstick on and no words. The ice machine at River and Salt hummed and never sounded clean again. Now the clock on the wall read 3:06. The second hand jerked. I watched it scratch the circle like a nail. Mudbug Junction, Ethan Cole asked. Our class rep. His hair was neat, and he had that careful, not too loud voice people listen to. Where is it? Not far, Lena said. It's rustic. A real crawfish farm vibe. No chain nonsense. A few heads nodded. A deal is gravity. It pulls. Maya Torres slid into the seat beside me. She smelled like coconut shampoo. Ava. River and Salt is kind of a big deal. Can you get us a discount? Her voice was low, almost apologetic. I just like knowing what I'm eating. Before I could open my mouth, Lena laughed, not loud, just sharp. Some of us have book budgets. Some of us have brand names. She shrugged. $9.99 means everyone eats, unless we are here to practice spending. You can always not come, a boy added, half joking. But I'm not missing a bargain. I could see the old argument standing up in my throat. I swallowed around it and smiled instead. Mudbug Junction sounds perfect, I said. We are students, cheap and full works. The room blinked. The roles shifted a touch. A couple people turned to see if I was kidding. I held eye contact with no one. The ceiling fan whispered and ticked. On my screen, the group chat bloomed avatars and enthusiasm. Someone typed ride share. Someone else posted a picture of crawfish covered in red oil. Fingers shiny and happy. I clicked the pin Lena sent, and the map crawled out across cane fields and 2-lane roads. The Mudbug Junction page had bad lighting and sincere captions. One photo showed a poster near the register that read, "No refunds on drinks." I stared at that line a second longer than I needed. Cat Nguyen popped up in my messages, a sun emoji, and then "You alive move-in day looks feral." I typed fast. Can you pull the business filing for a place called Mudbug Junction? Owner. Permits. Anything. She sent a thumbs up and a knife. It felt like a private joke sharpened on a stone. River and Salt is $49 per person, Lena said to no one in particular. Even with a discount, some of us would eat pretzels for a week. Her tone aimed for humble and landed on holy. A few people gave her the hum of agreement. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. We can split if people are worried. We can also eat somewhere that does not need a spreadsheet, Maya said. She did not look at me, but her hand found my sleeve. I just do not want to spend the night in an emergency room. My mom texted me. I said more to the table than to anyone. She booked me for a scope next week. She is dramatic. I smiled without teeth. It slotted into place. A line I could use later without feeling like I set a trap. The calendar icon pulsed twice and went quiet. Mr. Dupree poked his head in, then the faculty advisor with a tie the color of old mustard. You all decided. $9.99 crawfish, Lena announced. She made it sound like charity, or a prayer answered. All right, Mr. Dupree said. Stay together. If you drink, do not drive. Exchange numbers. He pinched the bridge of his nose and reappeared in his office doorway like a bad magician. The class broke. People folded laptops and snapped photos of the assignments like they were arresting them. Someone yelled Royals and Rebels on 3rd floor at 9, and someone else shushed them. The hallway smelled like perspiration and pine cleaner. The bayou through the windows slid the color of tea. Ride with us, Ethan said at my shoulder. He held his phone up and the app flickered orange on his screen. His thumbnail was clean and square. I'll get there, I said. I need to grab a sweater. The AC in restaurants always had something to prove. You serious about Mudbug? Maya's eyes searched my face in the glass of a trophy case. It is not like you need to show us you can be cool. It is not that, I said. It is summer. Let's go see. The words tasted like metal but went down easy. Outside heat fell on my skin like a hand. The sugar smell from the refinery up the road sat on top of swamp and gasoline. Cicadas buzzed so hard the air shook. The rideshare pulled up with a rattle in the front wheel. We piled in. I took the passenger seat and cracked the window. The driver had a Saints air freshener and an ashtray packed with gum wrappers. On the radio, someone talked about a storm in the Gulf. He turned it down for us. You from here? He asked. Baton Rouge, I said. My folks own River and Salt off Highland. The driver whistled soft. That place prints money. He grinned, then saw my face and let the grin fall. I mean, good food is good business. Fields unrolled on both sides, green stitched tight to green. Drainage ditches glittered brown. We crossed a one-lane bridge, and the water below looked lazy and deep. Far off, a heron lifted itself and drifted to a stump like a piece of paper. The chat lit up every few minutes. Where y'all at? Already starving. Picture of a styrofoam cup with Sharpie hearts. The cup had a logo stamped on it. A crawfish with round cartoon eyes. The kind of thing that is cute until you hold it too long and the cup sweats through. Traffic thinned. Then the road narrowed and went gravel. The car complained. Dust climbed and hung behind us. My teeth felt gritty by the time we saw it. Mudbug Junction sat at the lip of a canal, low and wide. A string of red lights traced the roofline. A hand-painted sign leaned toward the road. The O in Junction was a crawfish pinched into a circle. The parking lot was packed dirt, with puddles that did not reflect anything but themselves. Someone had stuck tiki torches around the edges. They burned low and greasy. We rolled to a stop. Laughter came from the deck high and unbothered. A kid in a backwards cap carried a tray of plastic baskets past the door. They were red clean to a shine in the places where fingers touched and cloudy everywhere else. One basket tilted and a crawfish slid, then stopped as if it had to think about it. Its shell had gone from red to a washed-out brick the color of a building that used to matter. Cute, Maya said, but her voice did not lift. Lena stood at the entrance waving like she had tenure. Look, she called. Told you, real deal. The driver popped the trunk and we climbed out. The boards under my feet gave with a spring that felt like a cheap mattress. Music leaked from old speakers. Zydeco buried under the hiss of a loose cable. It sounded almost festive, almost right. Somewhere inside, an ice machine rumbled. It coughed and then dropped a load of cubes. The hit echoed down the hallway like hail. A neon sign over the door blinked Mudbug in red. Every few seconds a letter went dark and then found itself again. The light washed over the baskets, over the hands passing them over the door handle, slick with use. I watched the glow stutter on the face of a crawfish that did not move at all. Inside, the air was thick with cayenne and old oil. Ceiling fans pushed heat around without winning. A line formed along a steam table, the lamps buzzed. Butter pooled at the rims and threw a yellow shine over everything. Y'all made it, Lena said. She had slipped a paper apron over her sundress and tied it like she was staff. Her smile worked hard. Roy, this is my class. The man at the register looked up. He wore a cap darkened at the brim and a shirt that had met grease too many times. His name tag read Miller in faded ink. His eyes flicked across us, quick counting appetites. Welcome, he said. Grab a tray, baby. We keep the crawfish moving. Red baskets waited in stacks by the napkin dispenser. I took one and felt the plastic bow under my fingers. A bucket of lemon halves sat nearby, seeds floating loose like fish eyes. Ty muscled in ahead of us, a grin on his face. This is what I came to college for, he said, and loaded his first basket to a slope. We bent over the steam table. The trays were labeled with dry erase ink. Spicy, extra spicy, Cajun, garlic butter. My breath warmed my face. Steam carried a muddled smell between soup and metal. The crawfish gleamed hard red edges black where oil clung. See that, Lena said to Ethan, tapping a far corner with tongs. Garlic butter is mild, good for delicate stomachs. He nodded. He looked grateful for clear rules. I watched her reach to the exact same spot. She plucked from a neat pile huddled in the shadow of the lamp. Her plate stayed pale. No red oil crawled up the rim. I moved along without touching the tongs. The rubber band on my wrist dug into my skin. The line pressed behind me. A boy bumped my elbow and apologized. His plate wobbled. A crawfish fell and hit the floor tail first, a dull click. Shoot, Ty said 2 stations down, and then his whole basket tipped. The crash carried over the music. Red shells slid across the boards and skittered under the table. Lemon halves bounced. The room paused. Roy flinched like he had been slapped. Careful, he said, voice tight, face easy. We do not like to waste. It is all you can eat, Ty said, cheeks stained with spice. He sounded confident and a little offended. Lena jumped in bright again. He just means be kind. The man works sunup to midnight. Nobody wants to mop up dinner. Roy's mouth flattened. He lifted a new basket to Ty's hands and looked away. The counter behind the register carried 3 glass jugs with spigots. Each held a different color, red, orange, electric blue, the kind of hues you see on bait. Condensation glued dust to the sides. A sign above them read, "No refunds on drinks." Another sign to the left said, "Leftovers will be charged." The letters were hand-drawn and careful. The ice machine coughed again, hacking up a fresh tray into the plastic bin. A boy with freckles held a styrofoam cup under the chute, then drowned it in red. The cup began to sweat through softening at the seam. At our table on the deck, Maya set down her food and pinched her nose. "I cannot tell if this smells good," she said, half smiling, "or like someone overcleaned a crime scene." Ethan laughed once and reached for a soda. His hand hovered over the ice, then dropped 2 long scoops into the cup. The cubes clinked pretty. He twisted the spout and filled it with blue. "Not that," I said. "It came out quicker than I meant." "Your stomach." I lifted my canvas bag and took out a bottle of water from home. It was warm from the car. I put it in his hand. "This is safer." The table went quiet for a beat. Then someone at the far end went, "Ooh," and someone else said, "Get it, class rep," and the noise returned to normal. Ethan colored and took a sip. "Thanks," he said. "I guess I am a delicate flower." Lena slid in beside him. She peeled a single crawfish and placed it on his plate. "Garlic butter," she said. "See, I listen when boys talk." Maya met my eyes and lifted an eyebrow. It was not jealousy. It was a small shrug that said she was storing the detail. Lena watched our reflection on the glass door and smiled at herself. I stared at my empty basket. The smell under the spice was back. Ammonia faint, but there. The shell of the crawfish in the corner looked soft at the belly. The eyes were flat, not clear. When you grow up with seafood, you know the difference. I stood. "Restroom," I said. My voice felt soft, like I might miss it if I dropped it. Inside the hallway ran past the fryers and the prep sink. Heat rushed it like wind in a tunnel. A mop leaned in a corner, had the color of rust. Someone had taped a handwritten map to the wall with arrows. Through a door propped with a sack of potatoes, I could see the back workspace. Roy had both hands on the counter. He leaned close to a girl with a visor, jaw tight. "Count the trays," he said. "The big boy has eaten 12, that is 12. The girl looked nervous and kept wrapping plastic forks. Lena's voice came from deeper in the kitchen. She did not sound like a hostess. She sounded like a daughter snapping a rubber band. "Stop panicking," she said low and clipped. "If it has been 3 days, hit the fryer again. Toss with extra spicy, nobody will know. They want the burn." My phone was in my hand before I decided. Camera on. Thumb down on the red circle. I kept the lens at waist height near the seam of the door. Roy rubbed his forehead and glanced toward the dining room. "Drinks are the margin anyway," he said. He took a plastic pitcher and scooped something powdered from a zip bag into it. He added tap water. He shook it like a bartender. The liquid went from clear to the color of a cartoon sunset. "Do not be cheap about ice," Lena said. "Cold masks a lot. And if anyone asks, the farm is out back." Roy laughed. It sounded like a cough learning to be a joke. My screen showed the red dot steady. A battery icon glowed a mean 5%. My hand was damp. I slid the phone against my leg and stepped back into the hall as a busboy shouldered past with a tray of fries. The restroom door mirrored me in a clouded way. I let water run over my fingers in the sink until they went cold. The soap dispenser spit out a pink ribbon that smelled like cherries and bleach. I shut my eyes and listened. The ice machine coughed again. The music caught and fuzzed, then smoothed. When I returned, the table had grown louder. Ty had a tower of shells on a napkin like a little red hill. He raised his cup and drank eyes closed, throat working. Sweat stood on his forehead. He burped and laughed. This was the move, someone said. $9.99 in vibes. "Vibes are cheap," Maya said, but she smiled at a joke only she heard. I sat. Lena watched me with a pleased patience like a cat with a string. "How is it?" she asked. "I cannot eat," I said, rolling my eyes at the sky. "My mom set me up for a scope. She texted before we left to remind me. She says I need to fast." Lena pursed her lips. "Convenient," she said. "I can prove it," I said, and put my phone on the table. Speaker on. The call rang 3 times. My mother answered with the clatter of plates in the background. "Hi, Mom," I said. "Can we move the appointment? I want to eat crawfish tonight." Silence, then the scrape of a chair. "Absolutely not," she said. "Do you want your results useless? Do not eat anything after 6. If you do, I am holding your allowance. That is the deal." "Please," I said. "They look good." "I am not negotiating," she said and hung up. At the table, someone snorted, busted. I let my face crumple a little, not too much. It felt strange to let anything show and not be watched from a ceiling camera. Lena studied me and then relaxed, happy to win a small point. Just have beer, a boy said, sliding a menu my way. No drinks, Maya said. She will be fine without. She knocked her knuckles on the table twice. Habit. Luck. The sky went from white to peach. Heat loosened its grip. Sound carried farther. Crickets started testing a note by the ditch. Out on the canal, a John boat moved slow and left a creamy V of wake behind it. Ethan lifted a garlic butter tail and tried to look grateful. He was a good sport. I stood again and walked to the edge of the deck. From here I could see the prep door. Roy took cases of branded bottles from the walk-in and lined them in the fridge. He moved, fast shoulders drawn tight. Between the cases sat more pitchers of color waiting to be poured into clean glass. His hand shook once and then steadied. A boy in an apron hauled a trash bag out and dragged it across the dirt. It left a slick trail that caught the sunset and glowed briefly. He tossed it near the canal for later. The fly buzz rose and fell like a saw. My phone thrummed in my pocket. Cat. Saw your text? Pulled state records. Owner Roy Miller. He used to farm crawfish in St. Landry, no violations on file. Another bubble popped before I could answer. Asked around. Locals say he has a daughter at BSU, uses her mom's last name. A third bubble, heart. I turned. Inside, Lena was at the steam table again. She smiled for a photo, cheeks up, eyes tight. Her tongs hovered over spicy, then drifted away. She reached for garlic butter, same corner as before. The sun folded itself behind the cane fields. The deck lights came on one by one and turned everything the color of ketchup. We threw our baskets in a gray tub by the door. The tub smelled like bottoms of sinks. Someone scraped a chair, someone laughed too loud, and the ice machine coughed like a smoker, clearing his throat. The ride back to campus was quieter. Ty rode with a pack that whooped when the car hit a dip. Ethan sat beside me holding his water like it had grown important. Maya leaned her head on the window and watched black water in the ditches catch pieces of sky. My phone buzzed in my lap, the group chat lit. Ty, y'all go on. Bathroom break. Be right out. Gus from down the hall replied with a string of skulls. He thought he was funny. The driver took a turn too fast. Gravel spat. We hit pavement and the tires sighed. By the time we reached the dorm, the hall smelled like detergent and heat. A girl balanced a laundry basket on her hip and tried not to drop jeans on the stairs. I brushed past the trophy case. My face looked calm and too pale in the glass. We scattered into rooms. Maya tossed me a look over her shoulder that said, "Good job not eating with the words left out." I nodded once. At 9:18, the chat flashed again. Gabe, anybody else feel like their stomach is making goat sounds? Maya, I am fine, just tired. Ethan, all good here. Kat, which building for game night? Lena. Everyone relax. Spicy will do that if you never eat real food. The messages stacked. Someone posted a photo of a half-empty bottle of blue drink on a desk. Condensation ran down like sweat. Someone said their tongue was still numb and it was awesome. At 10:02, Ty came back into the thread. I ate one more plate, huh? Ty, oh wait. Ty, guys. 3 minutes later. Ty, my head is hot. Ty, be right back. Silence. Then a trickle. Then a trickle. Becca TMI, but I am in the bathroom too. Dev, my roommate, just threw up in the sink. Maya, I am a little nauseous. Might be the smell in that place sticking to my hair. Ethan knocked on my open door. He held up his phone with 2 fingers. The chat issue glowed on his screen. You think people just overdid it, he asked. Ty can eat like a machine. Maybe, I said. The AC rattled and found a steady hum. The carpet smelled like old rain. I checked my battery. 12% now. The video from the kitchen waited in my photos like a small animal. At 11:24, Mr. Dupree chimed in. Mr. Dupree, focus up. If you feel unwell, list what you ate and drank. Names came in with details short and panicked. Anna spicy, Coke with ice. Gabe extra spicy. 2 lemonades, lots of ice. Becca 3 crawfish, half a beer, still sick. Maya 4 garlic ones, no drinks. Queasy, but not bad. Ethan garlic butter water, I am fine. Lena same as Ethan, we are fine. Lena's calm tone sat strange in all that clutter. Her photo in the chat was from earlier, smiling beside the steam table. I watched the timestamp next to Ty's name. It did not change. Maya knocked and came in without waiting. She had her hair twisted above her head with a pencil. If this goes on, I am calling the RA, she said, then grimaced. That place had lemon halves that looked old. I handed her a fresh bottle of water. She took it and drank like it would fix something. At 12:06, the chat grew erratic. Dick, yeah. Dev guys, he is shaking. Gus Campus Police said, call 911 ourselves if it is bad. Becca. I cannot stand up. An RA popped in with warnings and directions. Someone on our floor put a trash can in the hall. Doors opened and shut. The residence hall ice machine coughed and spat. The air smelled like sick and cleanser. Lena posted a voice message. She filled the screen with brightness and ease. Look, y'all. The owner is a farmer. He has been doing this forever. If you are feeling off, it is probably because you had 6 plates, or because you drank soda like it was free. I'm not trying to be mean. Just drink water and sleep. Her voice was careful, almost soothing. I put my phone face down and let the sound cut off. At 12:49, my phone buzzed again. New message private. Kat talked to a guy whose cousin knows Miller. He has a daughter on campus. She uses her mom's last name. Kat Hart. The hallway outside my room creaked. Slippers scuffed. A door opened and closed softly. I stepped out. Lena stood by the stairwell window with her phone pressed to her cheek. The light from the parking lot below made her look flat and carved. Her free hand rubbed the bridge of her nose hard enough to leave a line. I raised my phone without thinking. I did not have to step close. The corridor held sound like a bowl. Dad, she hissed. How long were they dead? Tell me. Not 2 days. I am not stupid. A beat, then her chest rose fast. A week. Are you insane? You were supposed to freeze them. I told you to buy the extra freezer. Why would you soak them in a tub, then cook them? She pressed her forehead to the glass and fogged it. Her voice dropped. And where did you get the drink powder? Do not say the flea market. Do not say that. Another beat passed. Do you want me expelled? Do you want someone to die? I held the phone steady. The red dot on my screen glowed like a tiny wound. Somewhere a toilet flushed. Someone laughed downstairs and then quiet fell again. She listened for a while without speaking. When she ended the call, her hand shook. She stared at her reflection at the versions of herself stacked in the glass. Then she saw me or saw movement. She straightened. She had a smile set before her eyes caught up. You scare people, you know that, she said, trying for light. Did not mean to, I said. It was true in an unhelpful way. She studied my face, then my empty hands, then the phone near my thigh. She looked at the red recording dot and pretended not to. You have a thing about restrooms, she said softly. Late-night phone calls. Your mom's scheduling every minute. Rich girl problems. A shout from the far end of the hall saved us from finishing a thought. Gabe T.Y. is going in the ambulance. The next message came from a number saved as Mr. Dupree. He must have pulled it from the roster. Mr. Dupree. All of you, listen. If you feel weak, if you have a fever, if you cannot keep water down, we are sending you to the hospital. Student health is closed. Do not drive yourselves. Sirens threaded in from the street. Doors opened and people stepped into the hall in bare feet and t-shirts. Faces washed pale in fluorescent light. At 3:02, my phone shook in my hands. A new message from an unknown number, then a system alert that pinged across our chat like a stone hitting water. Mr. Dupree, I have been at the ER with campus police. Ty Jackson was just declared dead on arrival. Silence took the air out of the corridor. Someone sat on the floor and made a sound too small for the words. A girl next door leaned into her boyfriend's shoulder and did not move. Maya grabbed my wrist once and then let go. Lena turned away from the window. She looked like someone had pulled the color out of her hair. For a second, I thought she might sit on the steps. Then she lifted her chin. People lie, she said. Hospitals scare you, and then it turns out you are fine. Maya stepped toward her, then back. Ty was not lying, she said, and grabbed the railing like it was smarter than the floor. Blue lights rolled across the lobby tiles and through ladders up the stairwell walls. A paramedic shouted a room number. Another asked for names. Plastic gloves snapped. The building sighed like it had been holding its breath all summer. Mr. Dupree appeared on our landing, like a piece of bad news in sensible shoes. You 3, he said, pointing without raising his voice. You were all there and look steady. Come anyway. The doctors want to check a range. Not me, Lena said. Her eyes were dry and locked. I feel fine. They can take people who are actually sick. Ethan nodded once and then shook his head. He had the look people get when they change their mind while it is still turning. We should go, he said. He touched her elbow and she pulled it back. Do not touch me, she snapped, then looked around embarrassed by her own speed. She tried to laugh and could not find one. I stepped closer and kept my voice even. Come. If you are fine, they will send you home. If you are not, you do not want to find out at 4 a.m. by yourself. She looked at the paramedics, then at the stairs, then at me. Something hot and bright moved in her face. Not tears, not yet. Maybe just heat. The ice machine in the lobby coughed and dropped a load into the bin. The cubes landed with a brittle music that stopped quickly. Ethan took her other arm gentler this time. We walked together slow enough to not make it a scene. In the lobby, a student in a hoodie threw up into a trash can and then said sorry to no one in particular. The automatic doors opened and breathed warm night on us. The ambulance bay smelled like diesel and rain that had not come. A paramedic lifted the back hatch and tugged the gurney forward an inch to make space. He motioned us in. He had freckles across his nose and a tired kindness. "I am not a child," Lena said. "I do not need a babysitter." "No," I said. "You need a ride." She climbed up. Ethan and I followed. The bench seat felt hard and hollow. The interior light made our skin chalky. The paramedic buckled the strap across her lap with a quick, practiced click. He checked her pulse and wrote numbers on a little card. The doors shut. The sound cut down to a hush. Lena tilted her head and kept her eyes on me. Her voice found a flat plane I had not heard before. "You knew," she said. I made no answer. The ambulance leaned as the driver pulled away. Tires rolled. The campus slid by the back window trees and brick and lights smearing into one long ribbon. The siren stayed off. The only steady sound was the soft clatter of gear against metal and the low hum of cold air working into a hot night. The ambulance slid under the ER canopy and settled like a boat finding a dock. The doors opened to light the color of milk and a smell that burned the back of the nose. A nurse in scrubs with cartoon cats counted heads and wristbands. The floor shone so hard it doubled everyone. A monitor beeped and did not apologize for it. They rolled Lena through triage and parked us on molded chairs. A TV on mute looped weather radar and sponsors. Students drifted in wearing shorts and campus shirts, eyes unfocused, hands pressed to stomachs. A boy vomited into a paper bag and nodded as if that helped. The automatic doors sighed each time and let in a stripe of warm night before the cold took it back. Mr. Dupree stood by the admitting desk with a clipboard. He had put his tie back on and it sat crooked. He spoke to a nurse in a steady voice, then to a campus officer, then to a parent with a jaw clenched so hard it trembled. When he saw us, he lifted a hand that was more warning than greeting. Maya came through the doors with 2 girls under her arms. Her hair was down and damp at the temples. She got them water and sat them on a bench, and then sat on the floor in front of them like that made a wall. She looked up and found me, then looked at Lena, and something like recognition flickered. Ethan checked in and came back with 3 paper wristbands. He handed one to me and one to Lena. His fingers shook more than hers. He tried to hide it by tucking his thumb under the paper. A pair of double doors swung open and 2 people pushed through them like a weather front. A man in a work shirt and steel-toed boots, a woman in a church dress and sneakers. They did not look around. Their faces were set with a purpose that pulled the room tight. Someone spoke their names, and the man flinched like language had teeth. The woman found Mr. Dupree first. Her hand came up and then fell to her side. Her mouth moved and nothing came out. The man looked past him and saw Lena sitting upright on a chair, whole and pink. His chest heaved and he stepped toward her. Security moved with him, but he was faster for the first 2 steps. "Give him back," the woman said. The voice came from a well and climbed only as far as it needed to. She grabbed a fistful of Lena's t-shirt and pulled. The cotton made a soft ripping sound. The man's boot clipped a chair and sent it skidding. A guard got a hand on his shoulder as his leg kicked a reflex more than a strike. The guard pulled him sideways and he cursed. The word cracked in the air. A second guard took the woman around the waist from behind and lifted her straight up. Her grip slid and she sat on the tile and sobbed without any shape to it. Lena did not cry. She made a small sound that lived in the back of her throat. Eyes, wide mouth open enough that you could see the tremble in her teeth. Her hands came up like she was underwater and could not tell what was surface. "Enough," a nurse said. She had a voice that made people move. "Back against the wall. If you cannot stand there, you can stand outside." The room shuddered and then steadied. Security guided the parents toward a quiet corner. The man covered his face with both hands and bent at the waist like he had been hit in the stomach. The woman pressed her forehead to the wall. Her fingers left damp prints. Lena turned to me with a focus that had edges. "You did this," she said. The words came low and clean. "No wobble. You set this in motion. You told them to go. You told them to eat. Then you did not, and now you sit here like a saint." Heads tilted toward us. Maya raised a hand as if to keep the room from tipping. Ethan stepped in front of me without making it look like a gesture. His back looked like a wall someone had painted. "I agreed to dinner," I said. "So did everyone else." "You knew," she said. "You knew like you got a script and I got the outtakes." She laughed one short note, then stopped. "You called your mother to make a show of it. You smiled at the camera that is not there. You wanted this." "Stop," Ethan said quiet. A campus officer approached with the careful speed people use near dogs that might bite. He nodded at us. Names, he said. What you ate, what you drank. You. I handed him my ID and rested my thumb over the screen of my phone. For a second, I thought about the kitchen heat beating against the hallway, the pitch of Lena's voice when she said, "Hit the fryer again," the way Roy shook the pitcher to make orange pretend to be fruit. Then I put the phone in the officer's hand. "It is all here," I said. Kitchen audio, the call in the hall by the stairwell, the manager calling drinks the margin, the daughter telling him 3 days is fine if you hide it. Someone should see it, not just hear about it. He looked at the phone at me, then back at the phone. "You recorded this," he said. There was no judgment in it, just the shape of the fact. "Yes," I said. He passed the phone to a nurse at the station. She plugged it into a cable. The screen over the desk had been showing a login loop. It blinked, accepted the signal, and filled with a washed-out image of a kitchen doorway. The sound came through the room speakers tinny and clear enough. "Count the trays. The big boy has eaten 12. If it has been 3 days, hit the fryer again. Toss with extra spicy. Nobody will know. They want the burn. Drinks are the margin anyway." The lobby listened the way you listen to something closing. Heads tipped forward as if the words weighed more than they should. On the screen, a pitcher took in powder and water and gave back a color that belonged in a cartoon. Off-screen, the ice machine coughed, and it sounded like the same cough from the restaurant. The room shifted on its feet. A hallway clip followed. The camera caught Lena in profile by the stairwell window, one hand flat against the glass, the other on her phone. A piece of her sentence ghosted the room. "A week? Are you insane? You were supposed to freeze them." Someone near the desk made a sound like a chair pushed too hard and then sat down. A girl covered her mouth and laughed once at nothing, then cried. Mr. Dupree closed his eyes and opened them again without any change in the surface. The campus officer did not move. He watched like a teacher watching a test be graded. Ethan spoke first. He kept his voice level, not kind, not cruel. "I ate garlic butter and water," he said to the officer. "She told me to avoid the ice. I thought she was being fussy. Now it looks like she kept me out of the worst of it." Maya pointed at the sign posted beside the jugs in the video, those careful letters. "No refunds on drinks," she said softly, as if reading the caption of a photograph in a museum. Her eyes moved to Lena and did not leave her. Lena stood very still. Her shoulders rounded in like she wanted to be smaller, then squared as if she had told herself to stop. "That is not proof of poison," she said. The words tripped on each other. "You can fry old seafood. People do it. You do not get sick from a few days." "Someone died," Maya said. She did not raise her voice. "Enough," the officer said. He did not shout. He pointed toward a bench, and Lena sat like the bench had given her an order. The nurse muted the screen and let the last image freeze there, orange caught mid-swirl. The doors opened again, and this time 3 officials came in together, a city cop in a pressed shirt, a man with a badge clipped to his belt and a legal pad in his hand, and Roy Miller walking between them with his chin set. He was not cuffed. He looked surprised to be here, as if his name had been called from a list he thought he had not signed. His gaze ran over the room, found Lena, and hardened. The officer with the badge held up a photograph. "Roy Miller," he said. "We received multiple reports. We need to ask questions. Do not leave the building." Roy nodded once. "People ate too much," he said. "Too much spice. It happens." The nurse unmuted the screen without looking for permission. The picture shook, and the orange went glossy again. Roy's mouth opened and closed. He turned to Lena, and in the span of a blink, his face changed shape. Father, boss, partner, all trying to get in front. What came out was none of those, and all of them at once. "You keep your mouth shut," he said. Security shifted. The campus officer took 2 steps and slid half his body between Roy and Lena. Roy lifted his hand, a little palm up, a plea that did not find words. He looked at the parents in the corner and went quiet. He looked at Mr. Dupree and then down. "Sir," the cop said, "for now sit." Roy sat, the bench creaked. The ER kept moving. A nurse called a name, and someone who had been curled on a chair stood so fast the blanket fell. A tech wheeled a machine across the floor, a tower with cords. The ice machine in the family lounge gave a little cough and then settled into a hum steady as air. The parents of the dead boy moved back toward the desk. The woman did not look at Lena again. She spoke to the campus officer and to the man with the legal pad. She pressed the heel of her hand into her eye until the skin went white, then let go and the color came back. A reporter with a station badge around his neck slid in through the doors and forgot to pretend he was not there to take. He stood where he could get the screen and the crowd in the same frame. His cameraman adjusted focus and waited for someone to yell at them. No one did. The world inside the glass looked like every disaster on the 6 o'clock news, and mostly like itself. The campus officer turned to me. "Do you have original files?" he said. "Not exported clips. We need to preserve them." "Yes," I said, on the phone. He took it like it was warm. He motioned to the man with the legal pad. The man introduced himself as from the district attorney's office, and his handshake was dry and quick. He wrote my name neatly and repeated it like a fact that mattered. Lena spoke without being called on. "I did not set prices," she said. "I did not cook. I told him to buy a freezer. I told him to freeze." She swallowed and kept going. "He hit me when I spoke. I used my mother's name because his name is a bad story. You all grew up with parents who gave you rides. Mine gave me rules and a job." No one answered at first. The pause was not pity. It was the space where sound has not decided what to be. Ethan lifted his chin. "You brought us there," he said. "You stood at the door and waved us in like family." Lena closed her eyes and opened them again. She looked at me. For a second there was nothing in it but a question anyone might have asked anyone. Then whatever it was left. A phone on the nurse station rang twice and stopped. An alarm on a monitor chirped and a nurse silenced it. The TV showed the coast and the white spin of an offshore storm. The man from the DA's office spoke to Roy, then to Lena. He used a voice that was hard to hear in a place with so much noise. The campus officer stepped to the side and let a paramedic push through with a patient under a blanket. The automatic doors breathed night in and out. "Ms. Hart," the officer said, and his voice belonged to the building. "Come with me." The cuffs clicked exactly once. The sound traveled farther than it should have. The reporter lifted his camera without meaning to. Lena stood small and straight, eyes on the middle distance. Roy shifted on the bench and his boot tapped the tile twice and stopped. The ice machine in the lounge took a breath, then went still. By morning, the story had learned how to carry itself. The lobby TV cut between a helicopter shot of the canal and a still photo of a red basket stacked on another red basket. A ticker ran the numbers under it. 1 dead, 7 in critical care, 39 treated and released, 3 unaffected. The anchor smiled in a way that meant the script did not ask for a smile, and her face could not decide what to do without one. Campus sent an alert at noon. Classes suspended for our cohort. Counseling hours extended. Dean Roberts stood under an oak and spoke into a ring of microphones about cooperation and community and health codes. Sweat gathered at his collar and held on. State health inspectors took samples in blue gloves. They moved like people working underwater. The CDC van parked near the loading dock, and men in polos rolled coolers inside. A photographer knelt to catch the angle where the neon mudbug sign reflected in a puddle that had no sky in it. Roy Miller sat on a folding chair in a room with a table and a camera in the corner. The DA read into a recorder, then asked for plain answers. Roy gave short ones that avoided verbs. He spoke about crowds and bargains and spice. He did not look at the wall where someone had covered a stain with a poster for blood drives. Lena wore a sweatshirt with the hood up when they brought her in to sign papers. She kept her head down, shoulder blades high, everything pulled small. A campus official set an envelope on the table in front of her. The words inside said she was no longer enrolled. She did not open it. The pen left a neat line on the signature line. Mr. Dupree watched from the doorway with his hands in his pockets. The funeral fell on a hot Saturday. The church smelled like lilies and wax. The boy in the casket looked like someone had tried to recreate a laugh and gotten the mouth right, but not the air. His mother sat with her hands folded on a handkerchief in her lap. She stared at the flowers and did not blink, as if blinking might change the view. His father stood during the hymn and did not sing. People hugged in the parking lot and said things that felt like instructions for breathing. Reporters stood on the sidewalk and took care to stay outside the frame. A woman from the station with the brightest graphics asked the pastor for a quote, and he said no without stopping his walk or changing his face. The indictment came before the month ran out. The words on the sheet were big ones. Fraud, tampering, homicide. A camera from the back of the courtroom caught Lena's profile as the charges were read. Her mouth was a thin white line. Roy looked at the floor the way men look at a hole they dug without meaning to. Fall slid in and found the campus soft around the edges. The trees along the bayou lost their color without drama. People got used to the sound of the ice machine in the dining hall again. It coughed and then did its job, and no one stepped back from it unless they wanted to. I filled out a form at the registrar's office. The room smelled like paper and carpet glue. A student worker scanned my ID and handed me a slip to sign. I wrote my name and watched it lay there dark and fresh. Kat came out of a stairwell and raised 2 fingers in a small salute. She did not ask me what I had picked. I did not tell her. In December, a judge in a dark suit read from a sheet of paper and then looked over the rim of his glasses. He set the terms with words that had been stitched to this kind of damage before. The cameras outside caught snow that was not sticking and breath that left mouths and did not come back. Someone clapped once and stopped. Roy did not turn toward anyone as he was led down a hall that smelled like pine cleaner and old paint. The cuff chain made a soft metal sound against the rail. The DA spoke to a microphone that seemed taller than it had been the day before. A woman to his left nodded and did not say anything. The night before they were supposed to move Lena from county to state, she left the holding area during shift change and walked up the ramp of the parking structure. The concrete held the day's heat. The city lights made rows of coins under her shoes. A security guard called her name. He was used to people who stop when they hear it. She did not stop. He ran without his radio, and she stepped past the line the paint said to respect. The sound of sirens came late and then passed through. Reporters used the phrase in their pieces. Sources say. Officials confirm. The camera caught nothing but the color change in the air. January arrived dressed like rain. I stopped by River and Salt on a weekday afternoon when the dining room was half full. The hostess passed me a smile that had known me a long time and never failed. In the kitchen, the ice maker breathed quiet and steady. When it dropped a tray of cubes, the sound was clean and quick. They bounced and settled like a handful of beads. My father checked the thermostat on the walk-in and mouthed the number as if it were a score. The red baskets we used for oyster po' boys were stacked by the dish pit, nested tight. A recycler was coming to pick up the cracked ones. The pile looked like a country of small cities stacked into a wall. I touched the top rim with my finger, and it warmed under my skin. Maya met me at a table near the window. She slid me a plate of fries and a bottle of malt vinegar. Her hand smelled like lemon and flour. She did not bring up the fall or any courtroom. We talked about a class I had left and a professor she could not stand, and a place on Government Street that played good records on Thursdays. When she laughed, her nose crinkled. She tossed a fry at me, and it missed and hit the edge of a menu. The fry left a spot of oil like a fingerprint. She wiped it with a napkin and did not apologize. Ethan came in on a different day and sat at the bar. He ordered water without ice and then added 2 cubes like a man who trusts the machine. He asked about a posting at the tutoring center and if I knew anyone who had taken that shift before. His hair lay in the same patient way on his head. He said he had changed his mind about a few things. He did not make a speech of it. He left bills on the counter and a note that said, "Thanks for looking out," written small in the corner of a coaster he did not take with him. At night, the bayou settled back into its old rhythm. The surface held streetlights and shifted them side to side. A heron took the same stump it preferred and watched nothing with the intensity of a saint. The bridge a mile down glowed the tired yellow of municipal bulbs. A jogger's headlamp moved like a star with somewhere to be. I walked to the rail by the water and let my palms take the cool of it. A piece of trash floated by and rolled on its own axis and then slid under. The air smelled like wet wood and something sweet from the refinery. Somewhere a boat clipped idle and sent round waves to tap the bank. The taps lined up and then faded. My phone in my pocket gave a soft buzz I ignored and then gave up. When I took it out later, there was a single notification from the class thread I had not yet left. The banner previewed a line from someone who had changed their name to a quote. It said, "Take care, y'all." I pressed the icon until it shook and then stopped it from ever asking again. Behind me, kitchen lights went off one by one. The building exhaled and settled. In the dark, the hum of the freezer felt like a promise you could measure. The ice machine slept. The bayou flowed like it always had, brown and patient, holding light without saying a word. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.